We ready? Yeah. Oh, check my damn shoes out. Yeah. Hey, man. Hey, the last time I was here, man, I had some. Good evening, everybody. My name is Marshall. I'm a person in long-term recovery. Yes, which means I haven't found it necessary to use anything today. No drugs, no people, no nothing. No money. I haven't found it necessary to use anything. I spent the day, man, doing research. I still like to read. I learned how to do that when I was in the penitentiary. When I went to the penitentiary, I got a job working in the library. Best thing could have ever happened to me. Shit like that been happening to me all my life. I got one perception, one view, somebody else got another one, another view, and then it turns out that the view that they had worked best for me. I go to the penitentiary, they put me in the library. I'm just like some of y'all. I don't want to be in no freaking library. And while that was going on, somebody said, pick up a book. Stop reading Sports Illustrated. Pick up a book. I pick up a book and I started reading it. And wow, I was amazed at the information that I got. I saw a piece the other day, and I was sharing this with John. You go to Facebook, and you see something that somebody done posted, and it sounds good to you. And what you do, you repost it without doing any research on it. Then you find out it's a lie. You find out it ain't true. You know, because you ain't do your research. That's one of the reasons why I like to read. And when I read, I also have a filter. When you read it, man, see who the article is coming from, where it's coming from. That's part of your filter. When you read it, most articles, man, and they're talking about women, it's probably a woman that wrote it. Do some background check on her. Research her and find out. You know what I mean? Because it's important to me now not to spread lies. You know, that's important to me. You never know who's listening. You never know who you're talking to, you know? And I spread that same message to my kids. Same message to my kids, man, you know? But anyway, man, this is the beginning of a new year. I mean, for y'all that don't know me, I graduated from high school in 1969. Damn! Wait a minute. I graduated from high school in 1969. What year is this? Man, 2024. 2024. So you don't have to do a whole lot to understand why I be jacked up when I come in here every day. 2024, you know, man, I've been blessed. I just gave you a little scenario how I thought I knew everything. And then as I continue to live, I find out I ain't know everything. A whole lot of things I didn't know. When they talk about the program that I was in, you got to remain open-minded. What they say, a new idea can't fall on a closed mind. New idea cannot fall on a closed mind. Open that mind up, man, and get a filter. And get a filter. Just can't believe everything that you read. Somebody else wrote. Your seller wrote it. Oh, man, this good. You know what I'm saying? Biggest lie ever told, you know? So learn how to do that, man. Learn how to do that. But all of this starts, man, with learning about self. That's where it starts at, man. The beginning of knowledge starts with learning stuff about yourself. Some people don't see why that's necessary. Others do. My famous saying, you ain't got nothing to lose, try it. Try to find out who you are. You know, I understand because I've been there. I went to the penitentiary in 1975. Whole lot of y'all weren't even born yet. I was in the penitentiary. Man, and I just got to say this. You know, my experience in the penitentiary, the closest thing to slavery I ever imagined. I don't know nothing about slavery, won't live it back then, won't even thought of back then. When I was in the penitentiary, man, it took a diabolical mind to come up with some of that shit that I was exposed to. You know, man, over in Spring Street on A building. Now, I'm going to tell you how bad that situation was. They eventually tore that mother down. No, they eventually tore it down. And believe me, if it was still resourceful, they would not have torn it down. You know? Graves under the penitentiary. You know? Somebody wrote an article about that. And you know how it happened? They catch an individual trying to escape, and then they would kill him. And they'll call your parents and tell them that you escaped. They don't know what happened to you. You going to the graveyard. You know? I picked that stuff up from reading, man. You know what I'm saying? I just had to throw that out there about the jail and about the penitentiary thing. You know what I'm saying? Man, find out, when I was there, the hope for me when I was there, I knew in my soul that I could do more than what I was doing. I knew in my gut, like I said, in your gut, I could do more than that. You know? And that's when I started doing it, man. That's when the thing turned around for me. You know? Now, 1975, when I got arrested, I didn't get clean until 1988. Because I'm just like you. I'm still grappling with my thinking versus somebody else's thinking because I think I know it all. You know, that's the part of it. I think I know it all. And man, you know, I went to the penitentiary in 1975. I went to the penitentiary. I was at the engineering program at VCU. So I know I wasn't dumb. I know I wasn't dumb. I was smart. To get in the engineering program, man, look, we used to do equations in class on the board, and it was no numbers. It was nothing but alphabets. Y squared plus Z squared equal A squared plus B squared and all that shit like that. And I could do that shit. So I know I wasn't dumb. I was too smart for my own good. I ain't know nothing about recovery. I ain't know nothing about change. All I thought was the way that I am at 21 years old is the way that I'm gonna die. That's what I thought. I mean, you know, that's what it amounted to. It wasn't until, like, man, in the 80s that I realized you can change. For some of us, it's necessary that you change. Because if you don't, man, you're going to be in for a long ride. Believe me that, I'm telling you now, you're going to be in for a long ride. I jumped off the ride in the 80s. You know, man, here it is, 2024. I just came back from Florida. I was there to witness the game between the Miami Dolphins and the Dallas Cowboys. You know what I'm saying? That's some dream shit. Some dream shit come true. You know what I'm saying? Man, and you know, when I think about the things that I have done, I'm glad that I referred to somebody else thinking and not my own. Because if I had did my own, I'd have probably been right in here, one of the seats like y'all got. And I've been saying, where when I get out this time, I'm going to do something different. You know what I'm saying? But I ain't going to change this. I ain't going to change the way that I think. I'm telling you, if you don't change the way that you think, man, I was a drug dealer. I was a drug dealer. Man, when I got out the game, my bank account accumulated more money than I ever had. You know, we understand these people that were slinging on the street, then they get knocked off, they can't even get a lawyer. Because they weren't doing it the right way. You know, all of that stuff's supposed to be put aside. Put that to the side. So if anything happens, you can at least get out. You can get a bond, you can get out and all that. You know what I mean? We're doing it the wrong way, man. We're going about it the wrong way. You know? My thinking today is, man, please find somebody that you can talk to. Please find somebody that you can communicate with. You know, please find somebody that you can kick it with. You know what I'm saying? Because if you don't, man, you're going to still be thinking you're the smartest one in the room. You're going to be in for a rude awakening. Programs ain't bad. Programming ain't bad. I mean, programs they got out there now, they allow you to do, they give you freedom to find out who you are and make some money so you can get cigarettes. You know what I'm saying? You know? But anyway, man, this is 2024. This is January. We committed. We here. This January the 2nd. We committed. We here. I don't know who we come in here and who we talk to. It's somebody that listens. You know what I'm saying? And we here. We done did our part, you know, to show up. You know what I'm saying? And y'all do your part not to come back again. You know what I mean? Not to come back. You know? Like me, I had enough of that shit. I had enough. You know what I'm saying? And man, I'm so glad, so grateful that I did. You know? And I owe all of that, man, to John. John is an individual. I just met. Find somebody, man, that you can talk to. Find somebody that you can confer with. You know what I mean? And this is one guy that I can confer with. You know what I'm saying? John getting ready to go through another transition in life, but it's all good, man. Because neither one of us are boxed in. Neither one of us are boxed in. We got some freedom to use this, you know. With that, I give you John S. Hey, John, what are you doing with that?
Speaking to you.
Okay.
Hello, John. Good job, man. I love it.
Thank you. Love you, man.
I was grabbing hold of every word you were saying.
Yeah, hey, for those that didn't know, when I got, last time I went to jail, John picked me up when I got out of jail, took me to a meeting. A year later, I goes down to Richmond City Jail, carrying the meeting that he passed on to me. Man, that was 35 years ago. We still doing the same shit. So it works.
Thank you, boss.
Oh.
Cut that up a little bit. More. Anyways, Happy New Year. I know y'all had a fabulous holiday season. Not really, I know. But, you know, it ain't always got to be like this. You know, I got up driving into work today. Well, I don't work no more. I retired the other day. But I still go down there and hang out with the guys. That's what me and Marshall got in common right now. We both fully retired. But I was going to pick up Henry. I live out in the country. And I'm going down this fast-moving country road, and there's a dog lost in the middle of the road. You know, I think it was a hunting dog. But I thought this dog going to get run over. So if he gets in my car, I'll try to get him back to his owner. So I stop in the middle of the road. Cars will stop both ways. I open my door, and that dog come up. I grabbed him, pulled him in the car. Hey, he laid on my lap. He didn't want to go nowhere. This is a stinking hunting dog. I smell like hunting dog right now. But it was the sweetest dog I don't ever seen in the middle of the road before. But it had phone numbers on it, so I called these numbers, I got an answering machine, so I text these numbers. By that time, I pulled up off a little side road, a gravel road. Make a long story short, turns out I was only like a mile down this gravel road to his pen. Owner called and I said, "Yeah, I'll take it, put it in the pen." So I went to put it in the pen, and he had several kennels of several dogs, and I put it in what I thought was his pen. I put it in. I turned around, and by the time I got back in my car, the dog jumped up on my car door, wanted back in the car. So I'm thinking this dog breakout artist, he got to be an addict dog or something. So, but we bonded, But I had to take the dog back. I put it in another pen, one I didn't think he'd get at. Now these pens got the chain links, ceilings, and walls, and I don't know how the hell he got at that other one, but he stayed put. But the point is this, I was only 2 minutes late picking up Henry, but I thought, man, I love life when you're in a position to save a dog's life and get it back and put it in its place. I felt real good about that. And I was listening to Marshall share. Now, everything Marshall said, I could relate to and identify with and getting charged up over. Now, we got two different journeys getting here. So it's a good example how you can have a completely different journey for the most part, but yet relate to everything along the way. And that says a lot about a person. I committed crimes as a kid like you did. I actually got arrested 12 times, 4 times in foreign countries by the time I was 23 years old. But that was all back BC before crack when they did catch and release. And, and so I was fortunate. But when I got out the Marine Corps and came home in 83, I was a year and a half clean, and I got out in December. And in January, I went to my first meeting down in Spring Street. So I've been to Spring Street, man. I remember going in there and meeting. That was a pretty big prison, a lot of guys, but we never had more than 4 or 5 guys in a meeting. I thought that's kind of odd because I felt like most of them should have been in here. But that's back when you could take cigarettes in and, they'd smoke your cigarettes. But we always met in this little room. And after a few months, I was curious. I said, what's behind the curtain? And it got deathly silent. And when we left, the guy I was going in with, he said, don't talk about that curtain. I said, why not? Because that was the electric chair behind that curtain. We were meeting in the witness side of the electrocution. So I never brought that up again when I went back down there. But, but you nailed something real important. When Marshall mentioned how we've been friends, I mean, true friends for 35 years. But here we are, we still doing, hospital and institution work, still volunteering, coming in and speaking to correctional facilities. And then I think of Sheriff Gregory and Henrico Jail and the COs we have here in my 41 plus years institutional knowledge of speaking in jails and prisons in 46 different states. And I still haven't found a place like this place right here where they let folks come in here religiously from the outside, organized, open-minded, hungry for that message of hope from the disease of addiction that you can not use drugs, find a new way to live, and lose that desire to use. This is rare. It isn't happening. There might be 10 facilities nationwide that have this volume of people in a meeting where we can come in from the outside. And, always got to give a shout out to Sheriff Gregory for making this happen. So let's give an applause for Sheriff Gregory, please. Me and Marshall actually do the easy part, as long as I got gas money, I'm coming down here. Now, speaking tonight, he once used to be a very lousy bullshitter, okay? He told me one time when I first met him, he was a scratch golfer. It just so happens I know a little bit about scratch golfing. Not that I am one, but I played with him before. But I can tell by looking he wasn't no scratch golfer, especially by the way he limped, And so the first opportunity we had to go play golf, he didn't even break 100. And I had to, I said, well, what makes you a scratch golfer? And he tried to explain to me why he said he was a scratch golfer. I said, don't ever tell anybody you're a scratch golfer. Matter of fact, you tell them you're a 20 handicapper and you suck. But I think he's come a long way since that day. Now, fast forward, he can beat me now, but I know I suck. You know, if you can't beat me in golf, you suck worse than I do, which ain't bad because I still have fun when I play. It ain't about the score, it's about having fun. You give me the right strokes, I play you for money. You know, that's a true story too if you know anything about golf. Anyways, you know, Olav come along, what, I don't know, 6 months, a year ago, whatever it is. He has excelled. He has a rich history in recovery, relapse, recovery, relapse. But he's on fire for recovery right now. He's one of our peer leaders at McShin. He's done all the training, getting a certificate. He's a good soldier for recovery and a good man. And we're fortunate to have him come out tonight. So let's give a warm welcome for Olav.
Am I using this?
By the time you start talking.
Huh? It'll be on? Okay.
That's a funny ass haircut, ain't it?
You can hear me, guys? You guys can hear me? Steve, you can hear me?
Hey, they can hear you talk,
All
goddammit.
right, my name is Olav. I'm a person in recovery. I work at the McShin Center. I do the reentry programs. I go to RSW jail, and I do a peer load at McShin. I've got like a house I oversee. I do recovery coaching. So it's an honor to be here today. So thanks for having me, guys. It's always a little awkward having to go on after Marshall and John because I'm like, what they really need me for, honestly. You know, they got this, you know. But anyways, I was asked to come, and one of the things I've learned today in recovery is when you're asked to speak or share your story, you know, you kind of do it. It's kind of like an unspoken oath you're supposed to do, carry that message, right? The only way we can keep what we have is by giving it away, you know? So I've never liked coming to jails normally, you know, because I was born and raised in Madagascar. And whenever I got locked up in the streets, they always had to put me through ICE, you know, and then they had to check my paperwork and stuff like that because I was born in a small island in Africa. And when the paperwork would come back, I could never get a bondsman to fuck with me. Like, it just was out of the question. Usually, I just had no bond. And it wasn't that my charges were so bad at first. The charges were just, you know, drugs usually. Eventually, they got to be bad. But it was that a bondsman didn't want to fuck with someone who's not from this country, you know? And so I spent a lot of time locked up, done some time in prison, 2 different stints. I can't remember how many times I've been locked up in jails. Usually, you know, after I'd get a bondsman and, you know, somehow I come up with the money to get out. But today, it's a pleasure to be able to come in here and carry the message of hope to you guys, you know, because I know what it felt like when I was locked up. And, you know, I never really got an opportunity to have someone come in and speak and kind of carry a message, you know. Usually the message that was being passed around in the pods or in the prisons was something about working out or something about eating a swole or, you know, a setup, however y'all call it here, you know, and then something that wasn't so positive. So I had to like isolate myself. I had to remove myself usually to the people that I was around and maybe just keep to like a small handful of them, you know. And I remember there were times when I was locked up in prison, I felt more free locked up behind bars than I ever did when I was actually out there in the world. You know, I don't know if y'all can relate to that because like I'd be free, you know, if I wasn't locked up and I felt like I was confined. I was trapped. You know, I was stuck in a lot of ways. And then I'd get locked up and know that like ain't no chance I'm gonna get out anytime soon. You know, I'm looking at trafficking charges, distribution charges, firearm charges, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just might as well lay it down. You know, I'm just gonna do my bid. And it was easier to not have to stress about what's going on out there in the world if I wasn't getting on the phone and I wasn't calling everybody trying to figure out how things were working out there. And I just would stay in my own little box, kind of, you know, my own little mind space, just reading, you know, writing, you know, and meditating. Really, that's kind of where I got into like the whole meditation process, where I was able to be okay with not having to hang out with my people. You know what I mean? Being okay with not having to always have somebody around me. Because even if I was out there in the street, I felt like there was all these people around me, I would still feel alone, you know? I couldn't feel like I was where I needed to be. And that's a completely opposite feeling today, you know, being where I'm at with what I do and being able to help people in recovery who need some hope, that need some sort of guidance, you know, to be able to be that person today. That gives me purpose. That gives me energy to get up out of bed in the morning. You know, I don't feel like I work. I remember I used to watch athletes on TV. You know, Marshall was talking about the Cowboys game. So you're a Cowboys fan? No? Okay, all right. This man right here is, okay, all right. Y'all have home field advantage, you think? Yeah? Yeah, they're gonna need the home field advantage to do something, I feel like. But I remember watching athletes on TV, right? And I'd say to myself, like, that's kind of messed up that they get to actually do something they love to do and get paid to do it, right? And I was like, man, I'd pray for that all the time. I'd pray for that sort of a thing. You know, if I could just get paid to do what I love to do, and I'm always out there doing the wrong thing, you know, ripping and running, selling drugs and stuff. But however it happened, that's what I do today. Today I get to go to work and get paid to do something that I love to do, helping people who I can really relate to on their level. I can get down to them and I can say, look, I've been there. I know what that's like because I've been in those streets and I've ran with those people. I mean, so this is how I did it. And then that gives me a little bit of a more positive feeling about who I am and how I carry that person. And when I see that person succeed himself and help the next person, and it starts trickling down like John and Marshall do, now you're like, wow, you know, I'm actually making a change out here. I'm actually able to fix and do some right for all the wrongs I did in my life, you know? And that's a powerful thing. So that's how I feel today. I'm not a professional athlete by any means. Like John said, I've got a little limp from some of the things that happened in my past, but you know, at least I feel like I'm being paid to do something that I love and it doesn't feel like work, you know? And so that's an exciting thing. Going into my story, I started using drugs when I was 12 years old. I was born and raised in Madagascar, so I spoke 3 or 4 languages all the time, right? My parents moved to the United States when I was 12. That's when I learned how to speak English. And so I remember going into schools and like being in English as a second language or ESL, you know, classes and being in there. And I was always with the school that I was at. I was always with other people that were, you know, challenged mentally or they couldn't speak any English. I kind of understood. I just couldn't read or write. And so I always felt like different than everybody else. You know, I always felt like I was excluded and I couldn't understand. Even if I was talking to people about things, how they were in America, I wouldn't know much about it. So I couldn't connect. I couldn't make that relation to them. And so when I got offered some weed by my sister when I was 12 years old, I was like, shoot, I'll smoke that. You know, that was my older sister. I trusted her, you know. So it started off with just a little bit of weed. It wasn't long before my parents moved from New York to Norway, Northern Europe, right? And when I got to Norway, there was like a little more access to drugs and they were cleaner and they were a little bit stronger. And that's when I went from weed to, you know, some speed and some coke and some ecstasy and some cocaine and some hash and some opium. And it kind of like the floodgates got opened up. Well, in Norway, they've got this custom, right? In the country of Norway, I've never seen this anywhere else in my life, but in Norway, when you go to high school, you got about 3 years preparing for when you're a senior. And then when you're a senior, you got this thing called Rus. And what Rus is, if you guys ever seen The Purge, you guys know what The Purge is? Where like there's just like a wild maniac city going on, everybody doing all kinds of crazy shit. Okay, so that's what Norway's like when you're a senior for about a month and a half of the year so it's like from April to the 17th of May, which is the 17. Mai. That's the day that Norway got their independence from Sweden, right? So for that span of time, you get to go around, if you're a high school senior, not anybody else, and it's not like the whole country's doing it, but just if you're a high school senior, you get these different jumpsuits. There's like a red Rus. They wear the red jumpsuits. They got this a blue Rus, a black, and like a yellow Rus. And these high school seniors, depending on where you're located in the city, you're going to have a different jumpsuit, right? And like you're kind of like battling out with the other members of the city who got different jumpsuits on. And now during this time, a lot of the laws that are normally laws, right? It's kind of like the law doesn't exist for like a month and a half if you're a high school senior. So the reason for this, I think in theory, is that they give the high school seniors about a month and a half to just run amok, to do whatever they need to do to kind of get all that foolishness out their system, right? So that after they get the foolishness out of their system, then they can go on and be an adult and have that stuff behind them. Well, and it's crazy because they actually promote people who do more of the like the more foolishness you do, the more wild you get when you're doing your roost sort of a journey, I guess. You get different knots and different accolades, and then they'll actually pay for you to go to university. They'll give you a scholarship. So if you're like the wildest one in your school, or like there's a couple different tiers of it, you're gonna get a free ride to school, right? So like they're encouraging this sort of behavior. So I say all this to say this because the whole time I was in high school in Norway for my 9th, 10th, and 11th grade, I was preparing for myself to like how I was gonna run amok in the city and stuff like that when I became a high school senior, right? It didn't end up happening that way because I ended up getting locked up in Norway for something silly where me and my friends, we got into like we were drinking and we went through a graveyard, and then there was some giant tombstones and like burial stones, and they started pushing them over, and I was drunk, so I ended up pushing these things over to myself, and the whole jail, like the whole graveyard got desecrated basically. So then we ended up, we're all drunk, the police show up, we get locked up. So Norway's like a Christian country. They're really serious about their Christianity, right? And my father was a pastor, so like of all the people that's doing some sort of stuff like this, it shouldn't have been me, right? But I don't know if it was because I was rebellious, it might have been because I was drinking. I just wasn't thinking clearly, certainly, right? And so the Norwegian government was like, hey, look, we're going to throw the book at this guy, because what I had done was I had set off like a chain reaction of, like different people that were young that were all trying to desecrate different graves after that one got done. So it was starting to show up in the news, and they thought this thing was planned out. So it got bad. So they were like, all right, we're going to send you to prison for like, I think it was like 10 or 15 years they wanted to send me to prison. So I was ready to go into like becoming a roost person my senior year, and everything just kept going wrong, right? So my parents were like, all right, we've moved a couple times around the world, and they were like talking to the lawyer. They were like, so if we take this man and we bring him out of Norway, are y'all going to still be able to hold him in Norway? And they were like, no, not really. And see, the thing with Norway is when you go to trial in Norway, this is like, it's like those ancient movies where it's like the Middle Ages, where you see like 4 or 5 white men that like put wigs on when you go out to trial. So I didn't want any part of that. If there was going to be 5 of them wearing wigs, and these are old white guys, I didn't want to deal with that, especially with the Christianity part and me desecrating these stones. And not that, it was done intentionally, but it's what happened, right? That's the part of my story. So my parents ended up pulling me out of Norway, and we ended up moving to North Carolina. And, they were kind of hoping that if I moved, that I'd stop the way I was acting, the ripping and running and drugging and all that. But, what it really did was it just made me more isolated. It made me more confused. It made me more unhappy with who I was. It made me feel like I was a stranger, a foreigner who could never connect with anybody, because as soon as I get close to people, I'd end up moving. That was like the story of my life. And drugs, what they were it was like a comfort thing, right? The thing is, like, when I would do, like some heroin, when I would do some fentanyl, when I would do a Roxy, when I would do some Percocets, when I would take a Xanax, I felt like I was getting a warm hug, right? I felt like I was whole in those moments. I felt like I had gotten that hit of arrival that I needed to be able to feel the way I felt like I should have felt all the time, but I wasn't able to feel that way without some sort of substance. And so I kept chasing it. And I mean, I was that type of addict that I was telling John in the car one time, because I don't even know if it was 44 times. It might have been 43 times that I'd overdosed in 1 year. And like the Narcan that I was getting hit with stopped working on me. I remember one time I got hit with Narcan, and I was deaf for like, I don't know, like a week or so, week and a half. I just lost my hearing. And the crazy thing is like when that happened, I could hear nothing. And I was like, I was okay with that sort of part of the deal as long as I knew where the next hit was. If I could just get some more dope and just so that I could maybe deal with that, as long as I got the high, then I'll deal with the hearing problem later. Like that's just how my mind worked. I was sick. I had a connection. I had this draw, I had this pull to this substance, and it didn't matter what happened. You know, I remember selling one of my friends that I was really close with some heroin, and I told him, I was like, look, man, if you do this, it's really strong. And he was an IV user. If you shoot this up, don't do as much as I do. It's going to kill you, man. And guess what he did? He did it, right? And as he was shooting up that drug, I remember him saying, these were his last words before he died and left this earth. He said, dear God, please don't let this kill me. And I'm like thinking to myself, I just told you before you did it, if you do this much, you're going to die. And he's asking God to don't let him kill him. Well, he died right there that day, you know, and that tore me up because, you know, feeling like I killed this person, even though I gave him a drug that I was hooked on, that I told him not to do, you know, that he wanted, you know, I didn't put it in his arm, but still I felt like I was responsible. So what do you think that made me do? More drugs, right? That was easy. That was a really easy one to justify. You know, if I just do some more drugs, my hearing eventually came back, right? That was a good thing. I was like, oh shit. One day I just woke up, I'm like, damn, this thing it's come back. Let me get some more drugs, you know? And that's how that was the stronghold that the drug had on me, man. And so if it wasn't for being locked up, I don't know, this was like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I got an offer to go to a rehab. It was the first time I'd ever been offered rehab. I'd never thought about rehab before. The idea of rehab to me originally was like, man, that's for quitters. My mom raised me not to be a quitter, so I'm not going to go to rehab, which is a crazy thought because, like, I see the people that are in these rehabs and they're succeeding, they're winning, they're making money. And I'm like, that was never, I mean, I guess it was just an excuse I told myself so that I didn't have to go get some help because I like getting high, right? It was easier to not deal with my feelings than to face those feelings. And so when I went to this rehab, I actually started to get whole. I actually started to feel, this is down in South Carolina, I actually started to feel like I was not alone. I felt like I'd started to figure out a little bit more who I was, and life started to become a little better. You know, it started to become more manageable. I got some good habits. I started growing in my faith. I started to get these things that I just couldn't get from the drugs. And the best part about it was free, right? I could get it every damn day. I didn't have to go out and look for it. It was available to me real easy. It cost no money, and it was like it never ran out. You know, those were the things that the drugs didn't do. The drugs always cost money, and the better the drug was, the more the money it took to be able to get it, right? There was always like a distance I had to travel. I could never just open my door or just wake up in the morning and the thing would be there. There was always a process that I had to go through. There was always like a stressful, time-consuming thing that I didn't like to have to do, you know? Going back to the Norway part, I think the greatest part about when I was in Norway, you know what the word in Norwegian is to cop drugs? It's called stressen, which sounds just like what it means, stressing. That was their word in the Norwegian language that they equated to that process that I just spoke of that I didn't like to do, right? Well, the recovery thing, that was free. And it was all over the place if I hung around the right people, you know? And it was $0 to get it. And it was always there, you know? And then the more I got in tune with myself, the more I saw that I didn't even really have to go anywhere. You know, I could get a big book, you know, I could go to a meeting, I could open a Bible, I could start to connect to myself, and I didn't even have to leave the house. You know, that was easy. And it was free. And it was easily reusable, and it didn't run out. There was always more of it. That was something that the drugs just didn't offer. So I I got out of this rehab, and one of my friends there, he and I, the whole time we were in this rehab, I remember saying to him, like, look, these guys don't know what they're doing. This is a classic addict behavior, even though I was sober at this time. I could do it a lot better than them. These people are making a lot of money doing this rehab thing. You know, this was my drug dealer mindset coming to life in the process of being in the rehab. How much money does it cost to come in here? You know, I'll be asking the questions. Okay. Well, so, and how many people, and y'all got a pretty high turnover. Like, so I'm sitting there scheming on ways to make this rehab myself when I got out. So what do you think I did? I made one, right? Me and my buddy that we were scheming with, you know, this guy was from Serbia. He had a lot of money, deep pockets. And, we started one of those facilities, a 501c3, a nonprofit organization. It's still running in South Carolina. But in my head, when we started it, it was like, if I just open this rehab, right, I'm going to be cured. That's going to be the ticket right there. It's not even going to be any more work that I got to put in. I just got to open this up and then boom, I'll be good. But it didn't work that way, right? The things in life that are worthwhile are things that you really got to put some work into. And the thing that I'm better at today, I'll say I'm continuing to learn and I'm trying to get the best as I can be at it, is there's got to be a balance. Like everything in life, there needs to be a balance, right? I was all in on trying to make this rehab successful, trying to help everybody. And the person I was forgetting about was me, right? The most important person. Not saying they weren't important, but I can't help nobody else if I don't have help and I don't take care of myself, right? That's why when you get on a plane, the oxygen, they always tell you, make sure to put your mask on first before you put your children's masks on, right? Because if you don't put your oxygen mask on, who's going to take care of your kids if the plane goes up in smoke? So that was an important lesson that I had to learn. And since I didn't quite learn it the first time around in this rehab that I'd started, I'd overdosed again. And that time when I overdosed, I didn't think I was going to come back. Honestly, I didn't plan on relapsing as much as I had the other times when I just wanted to get high. I didn't want to do it anymore. Honestly, I just felt like it was up for me. I went through one of those suicidal moments where it was like, I think it would be easier for me just to stop fighting this thing called life with all the people I've lost and all the stuff that I've done. Let me just quit. I don't know if anyone can relate to that feeling where it's like you just want to throw the towel in, right? Well, I learned the important lesson that I don't get to choose when or who. This was a lesson that I had to learn when my friend overdosed. Like I couldn't choose for him to die and not me, right? I wanted to die just as much as he did when I was using drugs that way. But what it ended up happening was I had to learn how to walk again. I had to come back from that sort of situation because my kidneys and all my organs stopped working for a while. And so there was like an uphill journey that had nothing to do with recovery. This just had to do with my will to live and want to fight for this life. You know what I mean? Trying to relearn to walk, trying to have to humble myself, which was something I was never really good at doing, was humbling myself. Having to ask somebody for help, which was something that I never was really good at either, because I always thought that I knew what was the best thing for me, always. I knew how to do it, and I didn't need anyone else's advice because I could figure this out. Like Marshall was saying, I think I'm smarter than everybody else, right? That was a dangerous mindset, having to ask somebody for help. Because I just feel like as a man, it's like the humility thing and asking for help is like, I don't know if it's something in our society where it's like, we don't think that we need to, right? We're supposed to have this thing all figured out. And so today I'm very good at asking for help. I'm very good at asking somebody to assist me with something because I don't need to be able to do everything. It's okay for me not to be able to achieve everything or to have the answer to every question. That's why it's so important for me to have a network today, because there should be somebody that knows how to do something that I'm dealing with in my network. And so if I have a bunch of people and I have a wide network, then there's always somebody I can call who can give me the answer that I need for any sort of situation, because I don't have to know everything. So what it helped me learn when I was coming back from this accident, this last overdose, was that, the things that were like simple, walking, running, just the normal basic life things that I took for granted, it was something that I really had to take in incremental steps. I had to slowly regain my confidence in being able to do it. I had to go into a physical therapy process, and I had to really be okay that I wasn't able to do the simplest things that I used to think I was always able to do, and so like when I walk, I'm always thinking about how I'm walking because I'm trying to make it look right. But like that was like something that I couldn't even fathom when I was sitting there in a bed and I couldn't move, right? When I had somebody that had to wipe my ass, when I had somebody that had to, change my sheets and help me get dressed, like all those things were like, I think were vital for me to be able to understand that I'm powerless, right? I need somebody's help, and I'm not too strong, I'm not too big, I'm not too smart, like I'm not too, strong to ask for some help, right? There's nothing wrong with it. And so having to like really get down and off my pride, my high horse or whatever, helped me to be able to be where I'm at today. And I mean, it's still like an uphill battle. I feel like there's always more work to go. But, you know, today, not being in a situation where I feel depressed, not being in a situation where I feel hopeless, not being in a situation where, you know, it's gloomy. Today, it's all positive. Really, it is. I don't have stresses. I don't have worries. You know, there's little things here and there that creep up, but there's always somebody I can call, or there's always something that will, you know, just let that sort of thing pass by, because it's never as big as how I want to make it out to be in my head. The McShin program is something that really helped me out more than I could ever say, because when I got to McShin, I came into the sober living part, and I was not quite all the way well for a lot of reasons. I had some trust issues. You know, I was really paranoid, and I didn't know really where I fit. I was ready to leave the country again and fly to, you know, Israel or Turkey or something outside of the United States. And luckily, my sister lives right around the corner from the McShin Foundation, and she knew somebody who went there, and she was like, you should go there and give it a shot. And going to McShin was really like a blessing that I can't even put into words, man, because what it did was it opened me up to finding a family that was not like the family that I have, that doesn't really understand me, that can't relate to me, that can't know how my stinking thinking works, how the disease works on me. You know what I mean? These were people that were like-minded, that had similar paths of mine, that had similar experiences of mine. You know, they knew what it was like to overdose. They knew what it was like to give somebody drugs and them die. They knew what it was like to live on the streets. They knew what it was like to do all the things that I went through. And it was like there was no judgment. There was a whole bunch of them all around, and they just had so much love in their heart. And so I remember the other day somebody told me, they were like, man, it's wild, man, when you start talking, Olav, like, to think that you used to be a drug addict. I'm like, damn, because I know me, you know, I know the person I am, and I'm like, dude, that's probably like the biggest compliment you can tell me, you know, because that means I'm doing something right, because I look at me and I still feel like that person's in there somewhere. You know, if I don't come into these settings and do the things I do, I'm liable to be out there on those streets and just be right back where I started. So I got to do these things when I'm asked to do them. You know, I got to go help out. I got to have a home group. I got to have a sponsor. You know, I got to carry that message back to somebody else, because, you know, it's easy for me to sit there and think I've got it and I've figured it out, because next thing I know it, I'm overdosed. And if I'm lucky, you know, I'm back in a chair in a jail cell or in a bunk, right? If I'm not lucky, I'm gonna die, because these drugs out here, man, they're next level. They're not like they were before, you know. I don't even know if there are. Most of the drugs that I remember when I was younger, I don't even think they have them or anything. Everything's got fentanyl in it, and you're liable to die if you do some fentanyl. And so, you know, I'm really blessed, man. I'm excited every day when I get up. I'm always trying to learn something new about myself. So I do stuff that I never thought I'd ever do, you know, a year ago or 2 years ago. I journal every night. You know what I mean? I write about my feelings and kind of what I went through in the day, what I want to do for the day forward, you know, and that's just something that seems wild to me. I used to think, man, why do people write in these diaries or these journals? Well, once I started doing it, like, it was a real good way for me to kind of get into my mind and to put it on paper, because, you know, I still to this day don't want to go talk to somebody else and really, really tell them how I feel if I don't know them. That's hard for me to do, but it's free to just write it down on a piece of paper. So that's something I do that really helps me out a lot. You know, I do a lot of meditation. It's like a meta meditation, where it's just like these four things where I say it over and over again to myself. I say, you know, may you be well, may you be peaceful, may you be happy, and may you be loved. And I say those things over and over again in my head as I breathe. And I do that for like 10 or 20 minutes every morning. It's wild, man. Like, I do all these little things, and I don't know which helps more than another, but I'm always trying to figure out what is something I should do to make me more spiritually fit, or to make me more awakened, or to make me more able to carry this message and be able to be better at my job, you know, because that's the kind of stuff that I get high on today and so like another thing I do when I go to bed, I'll listen to a 111 hertz frequency in my ears, which is like they call it the God frequency, where it's just like a little hum that goes on. And I listen to that every night, and they say it's to help, like, you know, like different nerve endings to grow and stuff like that, to heal from my overdose, you know, to aid in the way that I don't have that limp, right? Little stem cells, the little neurons. I don't really know all the biology of it, but they say it helps, so I do it, right? And there's all these things new that I'm trying to like figure out. I know that I saw something the other day. I ordered some of these glasses. They're like red lens glasses, and you put these red lens glasses on later in the day, and like the photons that come through the light with red lenses, they actually lower your stress, the cortisol level in your body. So like I'm doing all these wild things that if you'd asked me years ago, I'd been like, why would I do that? Why has this person got red glasses on inside? You know, and now I'm about to be one of those people that wear those red glasses, man. You know, and it's wild because like, and that's the thing, is that if someone said like there are all these different cabinets in life that if you just open them up, you might find the solution to your problem, or you might find some way to better yourself, I'd be a fool the way I feel not to actually try all these different cabinets. You know, another thing I do, and this has been like more frequent recently, I'll do fasting, right? I just finished a 3-day fast this past weekend. 2 weeks before that, I did a 5-day fast, right? And people always ask me, they're like, why are you fasting for 5 days? Is it because, you know, you don't have money for food? And I'm like, no, I got money for food today. That's not the problem, right? It's that I get so much enlightenment when I'm not craving food, not that I don't crave it, right? When I not give in to that craving for a food, right? Because the way I see it is if I ain't craving the food, well, now, you know, I'm not going to be craving the drugs, right? If I can literally not put food in my body for 5 days, and I've done this a couple times, the 5 days. I do the 3-day fast all the time. I say all that, like at least once a month, I'll do a 3-day fast, right? And I see in a paper the other day that someone was like, hey, look, I just found one of the people I've been showing about the fasting and the benefits. He was like, hey, Olav, you know, there's this 2-week fast. And I'm like, oh man, don't even get me started on the 2 weeks fast, because the kind of person I am, I might do that 2-week fast, right? Just to get more open spiritually, just to get more enlightened, man. Like any one of those cabinets where there's some sort of answers in today, I open them to see what it reveals. You know, if I don't like it, I can always close it, right? And I have that luxury because I don't get high. I don't put a drug in my body today. You know, I got nothing taking my mind away from trying to be more enlightened, trying to be more free, trying to understand more how this world works. Because it's a wild world out there, man. And there's just so much to see and so much to explore. And I just feel like I could live a lot longer today and never be able to feel fulfilled even with all the actively searching that I'm doing towards different paths towards my recovery. And what's nice about the McShin Foundation is, you know, they're open to all pathways, right? It's not just an NA, it's not just an AA pathway. They're open to all pathways. And so that's a big part of why I try to do all these unconventionals, we can call it, maybe approaches to my recovery, because I can help people in ways that maybe the average person doesn't really know much about, because I'm just learning about it. And what's wild is I get a lot of clarity, and it brings me closer to the God of my understanding. I will say that. I get really close to my God when I do that sort of stuff. So I do a lot of spiritual things. I attend a lot of different organizations or different denominations, different type of religious practices. Because again, I don't think that there's necessarily a right one or a wrong one. I'm so happy today in trying to get all this knowledge from every avenue. I go to a Hare Krishna temple, which is like a Hindu temple, on Sundays. I go to a Jewish synagogue on Fridays for Shabbat. I'll go to a Christian church on Sunday. I'll go to a mosque, during religious holidays. I'm getting sort of answers from every way that there's some sort of person who's got a religious text that says there's some answers in this book. I'm diving into that book today, because my addiction isn't eating me up, right? And if I know more about the ways of the world and different religious practices, different roads to recovery, I'm better able to suited to kind of help the person who comes in who says, well, look, man, this is how I am. Okay, I know a little something about that. Or maybe, you know, I just don't want to not have an opportunity to help somebody because I'm not giving them drugs and killing them today. You know, I want to really give them the most shot at figuring this whole thing out. And I know if I could just take a slice of what I feel and give it to anybody who's struggling with addiction, man, I would, because it's like, there's just too many people dying out there, man. You know, and I'm sick and tired of going to funerals, and I'm sick and tired of hearing of people that I know closely that have just lost their life to addiction. You know, and one of the most beautiful things for me in this whole story that I just told, because there's a whole nother avenue I could go down. You know, I dated a movie actress in Hollywood for a while. And so, like, my story's all out there, man. But the beautifulest thing that I think I've gained since I've been in recovery is that, like, my dad, they live in Turkey, in Istanbul, right? I'm going to go see him in a couple weeks. And he said, this was this summer when he, like, after my mom and dad, they went over to John's house and ate for a little barbecue, you know. And my dad was like, look, you know, you figuring this whole drug thing out, man. He was like, and my dad's drank my whole life. I'm 38 years old. He's drank ever since I was a little kid. And he was like, and not that it was a problem, not that he was ever abusive, you know. But to me, my dad just, like, Glenn Levitch, that was his drink. He always had a glass in his hand after like 4 o'clock, you know, 5 o'clock. Sometimes on the weekends, maybe by lunchtime. And he was like, because you're doing this thing with your habit, he said, I'm gonna stop drinking. And I was like, man, I just attached my dad with Glenn Levitch and some Scotch whiskey, you know, 40 years or better. That's what he wants. And he was like, I'm gonna quit. I'm gonna give it up. And that really spoke volumes to me, because I was like, I never would have asked my dad to give up liquor. You know, he never really had any real bad symptoms of it. But it was almost like an aha moment where I'm like, if my actions got, like, all the good things that are happening to me in my life, that's great, right? But to see that, like, there are these good things that are happening in the people that are close, that are around me, man, that makes this priceless. This whole recovery thing. So, you know, my mom tells me all the time, she's like, look, you know, your father, you know, he's doing the dishes now, or just little things like that. And I'm like, well, that's wild. That's a big deal, you know? And so I just urge y'all to realize that what you do. Okay. Yeah. Oh, all right. I'm sorry. I when I go into the jails, I do it for like 2 hours, and, like, they got to kick me out of there because I got a lot of stuff to say. But just realize with y'all walks that you do in your life with recovery, you know, you don't know the impression or how much you can touch every single person that knows you by you doing the right thing. Thanks for letting me share, man.
Give it up. Hello.
Huh?
Yeah, I forgot to tell you.
No, yeah. I was asking Steve how long.
Nothing but the best here. We'll see y'all in 2 weeks. All right, y'all behave. Thank you.